The award-winning and highly respected Culinary Arts program at Joliet Junior College provides world-class learning and hands-on experience that cover all aspects of the culinary industry. Accredited by the American Culinary Federation Education Foundation, JJC's Culinary Arts program provides training for future chefs, pastry chefs, bakers, caterers, restaurant and food service managers, and entrepreneurs. Students learn by working on the latest equipment and state-of-the-art facilities that were built in 2017. JJC's City Center campus features 2 fully functional student-run restaurants that provide students with the ultimate in both back-of-house and front-of-house learning experiences. The Culinary Arts faculty is composed of full-time, multi-certified culinary and hospitality industry instructors with a combined total of over 140 years of industry experience. JJC currently offers an associate degree in culinary arts and 3 baking and pastry arts certificates. Students pursuing a certificate or degree in the Culinary Arts program will learn the relevant skills needed to eventually become a supervisor, manager, or business owner in the culinary and hospitality industry. Visit jjc.edu/journey for more information.
Welcome back again. I am Professor Eric Bell, and I'm here today again with Chef Tim Bucci. I'm going to do a little bit of wine and food pairing with you today. However, before we start, I want to talk a little bit about education and how we feel that education is really important. Chef, you just completed a pretty taskful thing, the CEC, correct?
CMC.
CMC, yep. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, it's Certified Master Chef exam. I took this exam 2 years ago. It's an 8-day cooking exam, about 14 to 18 hours a day. You're doing work either in the kitchen or back at your hotel room to prepare for the next day. And I was, fortunate enough to pass the exam on my first try, and I have become one of 68 current master chefs in the United States. There's 4 in Illinois.
Yeah, we were all watching the video feeds as Chef was going through that, and just how painstaking it was. You could just see how hard it was for him to get through it and do it. We were really, really super proud of your accomplishment there. And then for me, I am currently working on my doctorate of educational leadership. I'll be finished with that at the end of April, doing my presentation and defense of my dissertation on April the 15th. So not only do we think that it's important for us to continue our educational process, we really feel it's important for you to come and get an education to go out into the culinary field and become really successful. Here at the school, we have a associates program where you can get an associates in culinary arts management. It's going to take you 2 to 2.5 years to kind of get through that and to do that. Okay, so as we're going through the wine and food pairing thought process today, Chef, we're going to be doing some cooking techniques. Can you talk to me a little bit about some of the techniques you're going to use today?
Yes. So the salmon, we're going to do a sautéed salmon fillet, just a good, nice, quick saute, give it a really nice crust to it, really great flavor. And then we're also going to work on a little bit of roasted Brussels sprouts, but incorporating a little bit of sweet dried cranberries, a little bit of sourness, some bacon to give it a little salty smokiness to go along with that salmon, and a little maple syrup and cider vinegar. And then I'm also going to show a Beurre Rouge, which is the red wine butter sauce version of a Beurre Blanc, which is a white wine butter sauce. So it's a very delicious sauce. It can be a little tricky, but I'm going to kind of walk you through that to make sure that you are successful with it at home.
And then we're doing salmon today, skin off.
Skin off, yes.
So what's the difference between a skin off and skin on salmon?
Skin on salmon is really delicious. I love it. But if you do a skin on salmon, it just has to be very crispy. Mm-hmm. In Europe and other maybe Latin American countries, Asian countries, that is very common to leave the skin on. And it's not always crisp. I find out here in North America that most people kind of like that crispy skin salmon. Sure. As opposed to something that's a little bit soggy. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So then I also teach here at the school a class called Flavor Pairing Dynamics. And basically in that class, we talk about different beverages, including wine and coffee, spirits and beer. And then we teach students how to pair those different beverages with different types of foods. And then eventually we get to the point where the students can go into a kitchen and cook some food. And we come out all together and we taste the different beverages with the foods. And then we kind of analyze really how good of a job we did kind of doing that wine and food pairing or that coffee and food pairing. We are standing here in our beautiful demo kitchen, $58 million city center campus. We have 11 state-of-the-art kitchens. We have 2 student-run restaurants. Chef Bucci and I work downstairs in Thrive Restaurant. He's the chef in the kitchen with the students, and then I teach the service class. We really feel it's important here at the school that we get knives in hands and pans in hands to really give students the ability to kind of really learn how to cook. And our restaurants are really busy. Thrive Restaurant on lunch and dinner, we're filling to capacity, and these students are really getting a good idea on how it works in the restaurant industry, in a restaurant, to be able to do that. We do lunch in Thrive on Wednesdays from 11 to 12:30, and then this semester we're doing Thursday night dinners from 6 to 7:30. So a really good idea to make a reservation. We are, again, really busy. Phone number to make a reservation, 815-280-1201. And then we also have a second restaurant up on the second floor here at City Center campus called Savour. That restaurant is open for lunch, on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11 to 12:30. To make reservations there, you would call 280-1200. So this is actually part 4 of our wine and food pairing series. Today we are working with a wine called Klein Pinot Noir. This particular wine is available at Binny's for about $16. It actually got a really high rating. It got 93-point rating in some of the wine magazines that we would look at. Pinot Noir is a really good varietal, good grape for people that are just getting introduced to red wine. It's a very thin-skinned grape. There's not a lot of dryness and tannin associated with Pinot Noirs most of the time. It's a little bit more fruit-forward, and so it becomes a little bit more palatable for people that are just getting introduced into red wines. Klein Vineyard has been around for a very long time. They are sustainable, farmed. The brothers that created the jacuzzi, the hot tub that people kind of go outside and kind of soak in, they're the brothers that actually opened the vineyard. And they have some really, really great value wines. A couple of years ago, their Zinfandel actually was rated in the top 100 wines in the world. And It was like a $10 bottle of wine from Klein. So today we're working with this Klein Pinot Noir. Pinots typically, again, very light in body. The aromas are typically kind of strawberry based. I get a lot of cherry cola, Dr. Pepper. As we were talking through the recipes today, Dr. Pepper, he's talked about maybe doing a Beurre Blanc that was made with Dr. Pepper instead of with the red wine. So a little bit of dark chocolate, really good earthiness here. Mushrooms, we have a term we call umami, so we get a lot of that with this particular wine. And so again, light to medium body with this one. That's that milk in our mouth. That's about 2% milk. Really soft tannins here. Medium acid, kind of finishes with a little vanilla and a little spice. So let's just take a taste, Chef, so we kind of know what we're up against before we start cooking. And as you look at the wine, this, again, Pinots are wines that you can kind of really see through. It's really light. As we look through it, you can kind of really see through the wine. And again, I really right up front, I get that kind of cola kind of taste, cherry, strawberries, a little earthiness, kind of mineral, a little floral.
Let's try it again, just in case.
Yeah, right. So in your mouth, immediately, you really taste that really fruit-forward cranberry, kind of dry, a little bit of tartness from the cranberries kind of flavors. It's really acidic. Pinots are typically acidic wines. We like to pair acidic wines with foods that have a little bit of fat in them, and obviously salmon, this would be a classic pairing for us. So I think this is going to work really good.
Yep.
Body of the wine in your mouth was kind of a little bit on the light side, right? It's leaving a really beautiful kind of cherry, strawberry sort of flavor in my mouth towards the end. What do you think?
I got to try it again.
Yeah?
Can I get some more?
Yeah. Of course.
That's very good.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, it's nice.
Okay, so let's go ahead and start. We're cooking today a salmon, and then to talk about the sauce that you did, you're going to make a...
Yep. We're going to make a Beurre Rouge, and I'm going to start that now. So I have a saucepan. Now, these pans have been heating up slightly, so if you hear some sizzling, and it's always a good idea before you start cooking to heat up your pans, which we'll talk about. So the Beurre Rouge, I have 8 ounces of Pinot Noir.
And you're using the same Pinot that we're tasting, correct?
I am,
Yep.
yeah, and I think that's a great way to kind of make sure that this sauce is going to go well with that wine.
Going to bridge nicely, yeah,
Yep.
perfect.
I have a little bit of fresh thyme and half a sliced shallot. I'm going to show you the shallot in a little bit. So we're going to add that to that wine. Now, I've added 8 ounces of wine, and it's a lot of wine for just a small amount of sauce, but if you don't add enough red wine to this Beurre Rouge, you're going to end up something that's going to start looking like Pepto-Bismol, which is not very eye-appealing on a plate. Maybe for your stomach, but not for the dish. So we're going to let this reduce down. So making a Beurre Rouge or a Beurre Blanc, you would make it the same way with a Beurre Blanc, except using white wine, probably about, for this amount of sauce, maybe like 4 ounces of white wine. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of red wine vinegar, because it is going to be a sauce that has a little bit of cream and some butter, which is going to give it a lot of richness, but that acid is going to cut through some of that fattiness of that sauce. And with the acidity of the wine, that's going to really help out this dish as well. So while that's reducing, I'm going to go ahead and start my bacon for my Brussels sprouts. So I have my Brussels sprouts already roasting. So I just cut these in quarters. These were pretty large Brussels sprouts. If they're smaller, you can cut them in half. I tossed them in a bowl with oil, olive oil, salt, black pepper. I love black pepper. It's got a lot of flavor. Tossed it and then just roasted them in a 350 oven for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. You want a little bit of color. You could try one. They should have still a little bit of texture to them, but not being hard because it is a cabbage. So what we're going to do, we're going to take just a tiny bit of oil before I add my bacon. And, I'm adding oil to something that's very fatty. Well, adding oil to that pan will help to keep that bacon from sticking. Okay? You can't, it's horrible when you're trying to scrape something off the bottom of a pan because either the pan wasn't hot enough or you didn't put oil in there. So this bacon, it's not going to stick. You might get a couple little pieces, but nothing where it's going to just become part of the pan. So we're going to brown this bacon, and then once we brown that bacon, we're going to take a shallot. Now this is a pretty large shallot, but it's okay. We have about 8 ounces of Brussels sprouts, peeled it, cut it in half, and I'm just going to go ahead and slice this shallot very thin, kind of like an onion. You could use onion in place of this. If I did onion, I would cut it very thin. But a little bit of onion would be fine. Shallot has kind of that combination of onion and garlic flavor. So when you're slicing this, always keep your fingertips tucked under. Use this middle finger as a guide. And then once you get to this point, you can just kind of tip that over. And I'm actually lifting my knife. I'm not slicing like this because that's you're going to cut your finger. And then usually this knuckle gets kind of cut. So I'm actually lifting my knife up, bringing it back, and then just slicing through. Okay, let me just get that one little piece. All right, so that's good. We're going to break that up a little bit. Now, our bacon, like I said, we want this nice and brown. Okay. Sorry. There it is. Okay. All right, so we're going to add a little bit of garlic to this as well. So we're getting some nice color on our bacon, okay? Nice light golden brown. It's still going to continue to cook. We're going to add these shallots to it. And we want to let these shallots cook out for about maybe 2 to 3 minutes.
Smells so good.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then we're still reducing here. So we're going to take that down to about 1/5 of the original volume. So around 2.5 ounces, which I'll show you what to look for. So then a little bit of garlic. You know, when I'm cutting garlic, I like to kind of be a little bit more methodical with it. You could use a paring knife, you know, and I just slice it a little bit, keep your fingers on top, and then slice kind of through, similar to how you would do an onion.
I've always kind of just pounded it.
Yeah, it kind of breaks it apart. And sometimes you don't want to release a lot of those flavonoids from the garlic. You just want it very mild.
Gotcha.
All right, so we want to let this shallots cook a little bit before we add that garlic. And we want to let these get nice and soft, all right?
It's always really interesting for me to watch Chef Bucci cook because he's got 2 or 3 things going at the same time. He's cutting, he's watching, making sure our kitchen downstairs in Thrive is open. You can come in and have lunch or dinner with us and kind of watch. And he's the same way with the students. He's kind of all over the kitchen. It's really interesting. So,
yeah, it's fun. But, you know, it takes practice, right? It takes confidence to be able to kind of walk away and come back and watch things cooking. So we're going to add this garlic to the pan. Again, my shallots are just about done. And then I have about 2 tablespoons of cranberries. You can use dried cherries. You can use dates if you like dates. You can even use dried figs, which would be nice.
Cranberries are going to be good because we have that really good, nice cranberry flavor in the wine that we're trying to bridge, right?
Yeah, that'll be really good. So, and this is my maple syrup and my cider vinegar. So I just kind of measured it out into a little bag. We're just going to cut that with a scissor, drop that right in. You need that vinegar because you're adding maple syrup. It's going to kind of help brighten it and cut through some of that sweetness. And then we're going to add our Brussels sprouts. A little bit of salt and pepper. And, you know, the Brussels sprouts have already been seasoned, so just, you know, be a little bit careful when you're adding more salt. Now, if it looks a little bit like kind of greasy, I just sometimes add just a pinch of water to it. And it kind of makes it, you know, gives it a nice shine to it. All right? So that's good. We're going to set those aside for now. My sauce is getting there. It's starting to get really deep color. And that's what we want. We don't want Pepto-Bismol butter sauce. So my pan has been heating up for my salmon. We're going to season this salmon with some kosher salt and black pepper. Now this is fresh ground black pepper. If you have a pepper mill, you know, that's fine. I'm going to lightly season both sides. So you can see I have it sitting on a paper towel because I want this salmon to be really nice and dry. If it's wet and it goes into a pan, it's going to stick. If the pan's not hot enough, it's going to stick. Now, one thing I want to show you, when you buy fish, you usually, if you turn it over on the skin side where you kind of see these V marks, that's where what we would call the bloodline. That's like the central nervous system of the fish. And when you see that, you want to make sure you take it out because it's strong, it's a little fishy. So, you know, whether it's mahi, salmon, or any fish, tuna, you want to make sure you take out that bloodline.
Gotcha.
So we're going to add just a little bit of oil. You don't need a lot of oil with salmon because salmon is a fatty fish. So we want to make sure that that oil is hot. A little bit of a shimmer or a light smoke right away. We don't want it to get too smoky because then the oil is going to start getting bitter.
What kind of oil are you using?
This is just an olive oil blend, not extra virgin. When you add any item to your pan, always lay it away from you. In case you drop it, you don't splash yourself. Okay. All right, now, the worst thing that we could start to do with this salmon is start looking at it. Fish takes about 8 minutes an inch of cooking, okay? If you have a piece of fish that's an inch thick, this is almost an inch, it takes about 8 minutes. Now, the thing about salmon, though, you can serve it pink, medium rare, medium. Some people like it fully cooked, that's fine. Some people like it a little more on the rare side. So we're probably only going to cook this for about 2 to 3 minutes on each side.
Perfect.
So probably about maybe 5 to 6 minutes total to get like a nice medium rare medium. Now, I don't want to mess with this. I don't want to touch it. Just think about that 2 minutes. things are going good, right? I see things. So when you're cooking, you're using all of your senses. I can hear things. Things are good. I could walk away if I wanted to. And I did because I needed to get my fresh herbs for my salad. But I could see like plumes of smoke isn't exiting my pan. It's not on fire. Everything is good, right? While that's cooking, we're going to go ahead and finish our butter sauce. And right now I have about a medium heat on my salmon. You don't need a high heat. Just heat up your pan. If I have to, I can always lower the heat once that pan catches up. Okay, because when you add your salmon, it cools down a little bit. Once it catches up, you might need to adjust your heat a little bit. So right now, I have about maybe 2 ounces of wine left. You can, if you over-reduce it, it's okay. Okay? You can see it's starting to get darker, thicker. Smells awesome. We're going to add 1 tablespoon of heavy cream. Now, heavy cream is not a traditional ingredient in a sauce, in a butter sauce. A classic beurre blanc would just be wine, vinegar, some aromats like shallots and herbs, and butter, you know, after you reduce it. We're adding a little bit of cream just to give it a little bit of stability, right, so it doesn't separate, okay? Now, if we add too much cream, it's going to mask and cover up the flavors of your butter sauce because you're adding way too much fat to it. Some people add a lot more cream. If you add too much cream to this butter sauce, it's going to really mess with the color, but also the flavor. Okay, so now we're going to let this reduce down until it's about maybe 1 ounce, and then we're going to start adding our butter. Okay, we want to see a little bit of thickness creating here, and I'll show you what that will look like. My salmon, it looks good, right? I haven't looked at it. I haven't touched it. It's been about 2 minutes. This is a little bain-marie with a little spoon. I like using spoons a lot and water, but if you do touch something that has fat in it, make sure you just dry it off a little bit. All right, beautiful color. Okay, look at that, nice crust. Okay, everybody see that? Love it. And you can see it didn't stick. It's not becoming part of the pan. Heated pan, dry fish, you won't have any problem. Okay, we're gonna let that go another maybe 2 more minutes. Now, my butter sauce is getting there, but I do want it to thicken slightly before I add my butter. If you over-reduce this sauce, you can always add a tiny bit of water to it to bring it back. Okay, you don't need to add more cream or more wine. You don't want to add more wine because it hasn't cooked out. Correct. If you add more cream, you're adding too much fat to it. So really, in reality, all we're evaporating is water.
Alcohol.
Well, alcohol, but as it's reducing, moisture is leaving. Sure. So I would just add a tiny bit of water to it just to replace that. All right, so I'm going to get just another little paper towel. Get that over here. Now, my salmon is looking really nice. I love the color. We got a really nice color on this second side. It's almost ready. It's still maybe a little on the rare side. And now my butter sauce, you can see it's starting to thicken, but it's not ready to add my butter. And this is going to really have a really beautiful color. Now, once this salmon has a really nice color on this second side, another 2.5 minutes, I'm going to add a little bit of some diced butter, some sliced shallots, a little bit of thyme, and we're just going to go ahead and kind of baste that. But that's after you've cooked it, okay? That's after you have cooked that bottom side, and then it just gives it a really nice color, really nice flavor to that salmon. We're going to let that cook a second. Now, my sauce, we're ready to start adding our butter. Perfect. Okay, yeah. It's starting to thicken up nicely, almost to that nappe, which is to coat the back of a spoon. My salmon is ready. So if you need to, right, to kind of gather your thoughts, just set your sauce to one side. It's going to be fine while we take our salmon out. Look at that beautiful color, okay? And then I'm just going to pour some of this butter and just let that kind of hang out. All right.
Is that something that you would need to set before you would start eating it?
Not like a piece of fish or anything. I mean, piece of steak like that. Yeah, you're ready to serve it. Now, I'm going to turn this heat really low for this butter sauce. So you can see how,
Wow, yeah, really thick, yeah.
how much thicker that got, almost like a syrup. Because now we're going to start adding butter to this sauce. A little bit of diced butter at a time. You can swirl the pan, you can use a whisk.
You turn the heat off too.
It's very low.
Very low.
Yeah. I don't want to boil this sauce as I'm adding my butter. I don't want to simmer it. I want to incorporate this butter. Now there is a French term for this. It's called monter au beurre, to mount with butter. So you never just add butter to something like this and walk away. This is where you cannot walk away. You want to keep working that sauce. We're going to add our butter, a couple, dices at a time, and then we want to let that butter incorporate or emulsify into that wine. Okay.
What if you were to add the butter before it was reduced all the way?
Then you're going to have a thin sauce, and you can't really boil it down at that point because the butter is going to separate out. So that's why I say you can always over-reduce it and fix it by adding a tiny bit of water if it gets too thick. Okay? Now, if you have, say, this is a stainless steel pan and a stainless steel spoon. If you have a stainless steel spoon and an aluminum pan, I would suggest using a rubber spatula for this, a high heat spatula, so that you're not scraping the pan. Okay? Okay. Starting to really come together. It looks beautiful. Yeah. It's going to give the plate really a lot of color. All right. Now, if the butter sauce is just melting if the butter is melting too slow, you can add just a tiny bit of heat to this, but again, do not boil it. Now, I am going to strain this sauce because I want to get rid of those shallots and the thyme. I like it a little nice. I like it nice and clean. So we're going to take a little bit of fresh lemon. Now, we did add a little bit of vinegar, but I also want to finish it with a little bit of lemon just to give it a little bit more acidity. Okay.
That'll play nicely with the contrast of the acidity in the wine for us too then.
Yeah. And a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm using kosher salt.
You guys notice that chef really salts everything. Like everything that we're serving gets salted, and it's just going to add and enhance the flavor of the food. So, and at different levels of cooking too, you're adding the salt and pepper, right?
Yep. All right, so we're going to heat up our Brussels sprouts. Our salmon is cool. It's nice and hot right now. We're going to take this. We're going to taste that sauce. Looks wonderful. And I can really smell that wine.
Yeah. Have you really concentrated the flavors of the wine while you were reducing it?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's try this. So whenever I try something like this, I want to get it on the tip of my tongue. That's where your kind of salty taste receptors have the, it can pick up smaller quantities, so you're able to taste things and figure out like the salinity or the saltiness of something better. Okay, so it's good. It's a little tart, but you want it a little tart because you're pairing it with something that's fatty. So we don't want it like heavy, and then you have something that's heavy as well. Now, I have a little bit of fresh herbs. I have some parsley leaves, some tarragon leaves, the innermost part of the celery stalk, which I love because it adds a little bit of bitterness to it.
Sure.
I'm just knocking off just a little bit of a radish, and then I'm just going to slice this very thin. Now you can see how I'm not lifting my knife up. I'm using more of a rocking motion and just slicing through. Okay, and we're going to add that to our salad. I'm going to add just a squeeze of lemon. And you want to do this at the last minute to keep it really nice and fresh.
Yep.
A little bit of oil and just a pinch of salt. If you do it too soon with the salt just going to break everything down. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and toss this. That looks really nice. Okay, get our Brussels sprouts. Okay, and again, you need to kind of add just a tiny bit of water to it, just to kind of give it a little bit of a shine. We're going to go ahead and add a little bit of that Brussels sprouts. Make sure you get some of the shallots and the cranberry. This is just a small kind of a tasting plate for us. You can obviously, do a little bit more, a little larger piece of salmon. And then I'm going to take out some of that thyme. I'm not too much worried about the shallots. I love it as long as they're cooked. Again, we have that really beautiful color of that fish. Has a really, really beautiful crust. Super sexy. All right.
You did say you were going to use that word.
I did say I was going to use that. Right? So now here's our butter sauce, and we're just going to go right around this plate. I'm just going to kind of hug those Brussels sprouts, keep it nice and tight. I don't want to go all over. I don't want to put it on the fish. I want the focus to be on the fish. I don't want it to be like like a train wreck where you need warning tape. I want it to look pretty. I want the focus to be on that beautiful color. And then we're going to just top it with this little bit of an herb salad right on top. Just a little bit of freshness when you're eating this fatty fish and this rich butter sauce. Okay? There you go.
All right, let's take a taste and see what it tastes like for us. Remember, when we're doing the wine and food pairing, we want to actually take a little sip of the wine first so that we can kind of cleanse our palate a little bit.
You say drink?
Mm-hmm. Drink, sip. It's actually softening up quite a bit. For me, I think it was a little bit tannic when we first kind of tasted it, but I think now it's kind of opened a little bit and it's not quite oxidized a little bit. So, and then when you're getting the food, definitely we want to try to get all the components together so we can kind of taste everything that the chef has done here.
Mm.
Nice bitter.
It's pretty good, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so really light. Mm-hmm. It still has a lot of flavor, but the food's light. The wine is really light.
Yep.
Really opened the wine up a lot. A lot of the for me, the fruity flavors that were there. I can really taste the acidity in the dressing that you did, and the acidity kind of comparing those two structural components. Beautiful sweetness in the sauce is really sweet, and the acid in the wine. Definitely for me, the acid in the wine is helping kind of make that second bite of salmon much more palatable, because salmon is a really, really fatty food. And anytime we're doing fatty, rich foods, we want to have some acid there to kind of cut through it. So I think it's delicious. Mm-hmm. I think the pairing is really good. The sauce is fantastic. What a great sauce. And it's just a beautiful plate too. So again, we're here for you guys. We would like for you to come down and check us out on the restaurant. Thrive Restaurant is open on Wednesday for lunch from 11 to 12:30. We're also open for dinner on Thursday evenings this semester. Next semester, we'll go back to Friday evenings from 6 to 7:30. If you're interested in coming and taking classes with us, you can call 815-280-1255, or you could email drandall@jjc.edu, and you can set up an appointment with one of our advisors. So either way, you can come and see us in the restaurants if you'd like to. You can come and take some classes with us. We'd love to have you come down. We'll save a seat for you. And Chef, again, food was delicious. Thanks so much for doing this with me.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.
The wine was great. Went really nice with the fish.
Perfect. Good. And you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Have a good day.